Now that we learned how we can gain access to our target, let's see what we can do with that target. So in this section, we're going to learn a number of things that we can do after we gain access to the computer. Now, regardless of the way that you gained the access to that computer, so whether you used a server-side exploit, whether you used social engineering, if you used a backdoor, if you used a problem with a certain application, we're going to assume that you gained your access to that computer, and we'll see what you can do after that access. So in the previous videos, I used to stop once I actually get something like this. So once I get an interpreter session, then I stop and I go to the next lecture. In this lecture and the next few lectures, we're actually going to start by having an interpreter session. So we're not going to talk about how we gained our access. We're going to talk about the things that we can do after we gain our access. So we're going to talk about really cool things. We're going to see how you could maintain your access on the target computer. So if the target computer or if the target person uninstalls the vulnerable program, or if they restart their program, their computer, you'll still have access to that computer. We'll see how you could download, upload, read files, open the webcam, start a keylogger, so you'll be able to register any key strikes that the person does. We'll also see how we can use the target computer as a pivot to exploit all the other computers on the same network. So say, for example, your target wasn't actually the person or the computer that you hacked, but you can use the computer that you hacked in order to hack your target computer if they were on the same network, for example. So again, all of the attacks, all of the things that we're going to do in this section of the course is the post exploitation section. So anything that you can do after you exploited your vulnerability and gained access to the target computer. In today's lecture, we're going to learn some basics about how to interact with Metasploit's Meterpreter. So I already have a session here, and as you can see, it just says Meterpreter. In Linux and everything, in every command line, the help command is always the best command you can run. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to do a help. And as you can see, you get a big list of all the commands that you can run and a description of what each of these commands do. So I'm going to show you some basics right now. The first thing that I want to show you is the background command. So background will basically background the current session. So it won't terminate the session. It's very similar to minimizing a window. So when I run background, I'll go back to Metasploit, as you can see there, and I can run other Metasploit exploits to further exploit the target machine or just to exploit other machines, while maintaining my connection to the computer that I just hacked. So to see a list of all the computers or the sessions that we have, we can just run sessions, L, to list the current sessions. And as you can see, we have a session here, Meterpreter, so it's still there, we didn't lose it, and it's between our device and the target device, which is 206. Now, in order, if I want to get back into that session to interact with the Meterpreter again, all I need to do is run sessions again, -i for interact, and then I'm going to put number 2, which is the ID of the session. And as you can see, I'm back in the Meterpreter session. Another command that I want to show you is the sysinfo. And you see me run this every time I hack into a system. And the reason for this command, it shows you information about the target computer. So it shows us the computer name right here. We can see the operating system of the target computer, and it's running Windows 10. We can see the architecture, so it's a 64-bit computer, so that if in the future, if we wanted to run some executables on that target, we know it's a 64-bit and we create 64-bit executables. We can see that the language is English, the work group that it's working on, and the user ID that's logged in. And we can see the version of Meterpreter that's running on the target machine, and it's actually a 32-bit version of Meterpreter. Another useful command for gathering information is ipconfig. Now, ipconfig is very similar to the ipconfig that you get when you run on the Windows machine on the command prompt, and it'll show you all the interfaces that are connected to the target computer. We can see, for example, here, interface 1, we can see the MAC address, we can see the IP address, and for example, here, this is the interface that is connected to our network and the one that we got the connection from. So if the device is connected to multiple networks, you'll be able to see all the interfaces and how to interact with them. Another useful information gathering command that you can run is ps. Now, ps will list all the processes that are running on the target computer. So these might be background processes or actual programs running in the foreground as Windows programs or GUIs. You can see each process here, the name of the process, and then you can see the ID or the PID in which it's running. An interesting process is the Explorer.exe, and that's literally the graphical interface of Windows. And we can see that it's running on process ID 2116. Now, a very good idea once you hack into a system is to migrate the current process that you're running on, into a process that is safer than your current process. For example, the Explorer is the graphical interface of Windows, so it's always running as long as the person is using their device. So it's much safer than the process that you gained your access to the computer through. For example, if you gained your access through an executable or a program, you will lose your process as soon as the person closes that program. So a better way to do is to migrate to a process that is less likely to be closed or terminated. So what we're going to do, we're going to use a command called migrate to move our current session into a different process. And we're going to use the Explorer process because it's very safe. Put 2115. And there's no such process, obviously. So it should be 2116. And the migration is successful now. So the interpreter at the moment is running from the Explorer.exe. Now, if we go to the task manager on the target computer and run my system monitor, or resource monitor, sorry. Now, if we go on network and go into CP connections, you'll see that the connection here on port 8080 is coming from Explorer.exe. So it's not coming from a malicious file. Our payload or backdoor is actually running through the Explorer. Now, if you've seen Firefox or Chrome, you can migrate to that process, and especially that you're connecting through port 8080, or you can use 80, then it's gonna look even less suspicious because that's 80 and 8080 are the ports used by web servers. So it's very natural or very normal to have a connection on port 80 or 8080. Now we're going to learn more commands that will allow us to navigate, list, read, download, upload, and even execute files on the target computer. So I have my interpreter session right here. And the first thing that I'm going to do is get my current working directory using the pwd command. And as you can see, I'm in C users at the moment. Now, if I want to list all the files and directories, I'm going to use ls. And let's say that I want to navigate to this file, ie user. I'm going to do cd ie user. And if I do pwd now, you'll see that I'm in users ie user. And let's go into downloads, list the files. As you can see now in the files that we listed, we can see a file here called passwords.txt. So this seems like an interesting file. So let's see if we want to read this file. If I wanted to read it, all I have to do is do cat and passwords.txt. And as you can see, we can see that it contains test1 and test2. So if I go here and run the file, you can see that this is the actual content of the file. Now let's say that I really want this file and I want to keep it for later. Then I can download that file. To do that, we're just going to say download. And we put the file name, which is passwords.txt. Now the file has been downloaded successfully. And if I go to my root folder, you'll see that I have a file called passwords and it contains test1 and test2. Let's say that I have a backdoor or a virus or a Trojan or a keylogger that I want to upload on the target computer. So I can upload it very easily. Now I'll go back to my root actually to show you that I have a file called backdoorcalc.exe. So we're going to try to upload that file. And to do that, we're just going to run upload. And we put the file name. Hit enter. And as you can see now, the file has been uploaded successfully. Now let's list to make sure that the file exists. And we can see that we have a new file called backdoorcalc.exe. And to execute this file on the target computer, now we only uploaded it. So if it was a virus or a keylogger and you want to execute it, all you have to do is execute and specify the file that you'd like to execute after the F command, and then type in the name of the file. So in this case, it's backdoorcalc.exe. And as you can see, it's telling us that process 3128 has been created. So my backdoor has been executed. Now, if this was a virus or anything that you uploaded, it'll do what it's supposed to do because you just executed that file. Another feature that I want to show you is shell, which basically just converts the current Metasploit or Meterpreter session into an operating system shell. So if I just type in shell, you'll see I'll get a Windows prompt or Windows command line where I can execute Windows commands. Now, as you can see now, it's on a different channel and I can run any Windows command that I want through this now. So I can just do dir to list all directories. I can do ipconfig or use any Windows command that I want, exactly like running the commands through the command prompt. Now, there is much more commands that you can do for file system management. So if you type in help and you go to the file system section, you'll see that you can edit, you can download, we showed that, you can move a file to another file. It also can be used to rename files. You can delete files, you can remove directories, you can search. So there is so many more things that you can do with file system. That was just an overview of the basic or main commands that you can use with managing the file system of the target computer. In all of the scenarios and videos we've done so far, we would lose our connection to the target computer as soon as the target person restarts their computer, because we used a normal backdoor, and once they restart their computer, our backdoor will be terminated, the process will be terminated, and we'll lose the connection. So in today's lecture, we're going to talk about methods that will allow us to maintain our access to the target computer, so that we can come back at any time and regain our full control over that computer. So there's a number of methods to do that. The first one is using vil evasion. We can use, instead of the normal backdoor, the HTTP backdoor that we created, you can use a HTTP service or a TCP service. So I'll actually show you here. If I just run vil evasion and do a list, you'll see that we have at number 7 right here, and at number 5 we have service backdoors. So you can use any of them. If I do use 5, and we can see the info, all you have to do is just set up your lhost, put the lhost, and then generate the backdoor. And once you generate it, you can use it and combine it with other stuff and send it to the target person like we did. or you can upload it using the upload command that we learned and then execute it. And that will install the backdoor as a service on the target computer. So then all you need to do is use the multi-handler, and anytime the target computer starts, it'll try to connect back to you, because this is a reverse shell. Now, I'm not going to be explaining this method because this method is very simple. We've done something very similar to it before. We created backdoor using vil evasion, and we uploaded stuff to the target computer. So all you have to do is create the backdoor, upload it, execute it, and you're done. Also, it doesn't always work, so that's why I'm not going to be explaining it. The normal backdoors are much more reliable. That's why I used a normal backdoor when I was combining it with stuff and changing its icon and all that. So what we're going to do is we're going to use our backdoor, the normal HTTP reverse meterpreter backdoor that we created in the first video when we created an undetectable backdoor. We're going to use that and inject that as a service so that it runs every time the target person runs their computer and tries to connect back to us every certain amount of time. So to do this, I'm going to background the current session. So we've seen that before. You can do background, and I can still interact with that session on number 1. And I'm going to use a module. So this is like the multi-handler module that comes in with Metasploit, and it's called exploit Windows local persistence. Then I'm going to show its options to see what we need to configure. So the first thing is the amount of seconds that the target will try to connect back to us, so the interval, and I'm going to keep that to 10 seconds. So every 10 seconds, the target computer will try to connect back to me. Now, the exe name is the name that will show up under the processes where the connection is coming back from. So I'm going to set that to browser to make it less detectable. So we're going to set the exe name to browser.exe. And then the path where the payload or the backdoor will be installed, I'll leave that the same. I'll leave the reg name, the registry entry the same. Now, this is very important. You need to specify which session to run this exploit on. And as you can see now, we were using session number 1. That's our meterpreter session. And if I do sessions, L, it'll list all the available sessions, and we can see that it's ID number 1. So what we need to do is we need to set our session here to number 1. So I'm going to do set session to 1. And the startup, we're going to leave it for the user person, for the user privileges. Now let's show the options. So browser and the session number 1, that's all good. Now we need to specify the payload that will be injected as a service. So to do that, we're going to do a show advanced. So show advanced will show you advanced options that you can set up for this particular module. So when I run this, you'll see I'll get so much more options. And the one that we're interested in is this one. So it's called exe custom, which means that we're going to use a custom exe to run and inject into the target computer as a service. So I'm going to set my exe custom to var www.html backdoor.exe. As you remember, I had that stored in var www.html backdoor.exe. So I'm going to hit enter, and I'm just going to do show advanced again to make sure that it was set up properly, because sometimes I misspell things. And it's var www.html backdoor.exe. So that's perfect. Everything is good to go. I'm going to exploit this, and that will upload var www.html backdoor.exe on the target computer using the session that we specified, session number 1. As you can see now, it's been uploaded and installed. And one important thing that you need to keep in mind is this resource file, because you can use this to clean up and delete the backdoor once you're done. So if you don't want the backdoor anymore on the target computer, you can use this file to delete that backdoor. So I'm going to store that in a leaf pad here so that I can run it and delete my backdoor if I wanted to delete it anytime in the future. If I do sessions L, I still have my session here. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to kill that session. I'm going to kill all my sessions. And now if I list, I have no connections with the target computer, as you can see. And I'm going to go to use my exploit multi-handler so I can listen for incoming connections. And everything is configured correctly already on this. So I have my right port and my right IP. Now, if I exploit this right now, I'll get a connection straight away because my backdoor has been injected into the target computer on port 8080 on reverse HTTP. But I'm not going to do that now. I'm actually going to restart the target computer just to show you that I'll always have connection now with this computer. So I'm just going to do a normal restart. So this computer will basically try to connect back to me every 10 seconds. No matter how many times they restart it, they shut it down, every time this computer is running, it'll try to connect back to me in every 10 seconds. So all I have to do is run my interpreter handler and wait for connections. Now this computer is running, as you can see. It doesn't have to be at the startup when I'm listening. And I'm just going to do exploit to listen. And it'll take a maximum of 10 seconds to get a connection back. And as you can see, I got a connection to the target computer. I can do sysinfo and run all the commands that we learned so far and have full access on that computer. In this video, we'll see how we can log any mouse or keyboard event that happens on the target computer. We're going to do that using a plugin or a module that comes in with a interpreter. So I have my interpreter here already. And to do that, all you need to do is just type keyscan start. Now all of this exists in the help. If you run the help, you'll see it there. And now it's starting my keystrike sniffer. So I have my Firefox running here. And let's say I wanted to go to facebook.com. And then I wanted to log into my, now as you can see, it's HTTPS here and nothing is wrong about it. Now let's say I wanted to log in to my account. So I'm going to put my account, zaid.isecurity.org. And let's say I put my password, which is 123456. Now, obviously this is the wrong password. I'm just trying to show you here. Now, if we come back here to see the log of everything that has been recorded, we're going to type in keyscan dump. Now, as you can see, now we can see that the target person typed in facebook.com, hit enter. Then they put their username, which is zaid@isecurity.org, hit tab, and then they put the password 123456. Now, this will obviously record everything that happens in there. To stop this, you can just do keyscan stop, and it'll stop the sniffer. Now, another cool thing that you can do is you can get a screenshot. So you can just type in screenshot. If I spell that right. And it'll save it here for you in the root. Now, if I go to my browser, you'll see that I have a screenshot. I believe it's this one. And it's showing you what's here on the target computer. You can see it in here. Now, these are just two useful features. The key login is very useful because you can get usernames and passwords from it and see what the target person is doing. The screenshot, you can see them, kind of get an idea of what they're doing as well. But definitely the keylogger is much more useful. Now, obviously, you can use other keylogger programs like a portable keylogger, and all you have to do is just upload it using the upload command that we learned before and execute it. In today's lecture and the next few lectures, we're going to talk about pivoting. We're going to assume that our target is this metasploitable device. Now, each one of these circles, the big circles, we're going to assume is a network. And as you can see, the metasploitable device is not visible by the hacker. So the hacker cannot see this device. This device is hidden either behind the network or for some other reason, the hacker is not able to ping or access the IP address of this device. So we're assuming in our example that it exists in a different internal network. So we can see that this big network has 4 devices. It has the metasploitable device, it has an iPhone, another device, and the Windows device which we hacked. And we can see that it's in red. And the hacker exists in this smaller network, and there's only two devices. There is the hacker and the red device, the Windows 10 device, which we hacked. So the target of pivoting is we use the device that we hacked, the common device in the middle, to compromise other devices that only this device has access to. So our target, the hacker, cannot see the target, which is the Metasploit device. But the device that we just hacked, the Windows device, can see that device because they're in the same network. So in our next videos, we're going to try to hack into the Metasploitable device, while the Metasploitable device is not going to be visible to the hacker, which is the Kali device. The only way to access the Metasploitable is through the Windows device, which we are going to use as a pivot in order to hack this device right there. Now, to replicate this network layout, we'll need to modify the network settings of the virtual machines in our lab. So I have VMware running here already, and I'm going to zoom in. And first of all, I just want to show you the network settings for Kali. So I'm going to click on Edit Settings. And if we click on Network, you'll notice that it is connected to a NAT network. This is the option that we've been using throughout the course. And I'm actually going to keep it the same because Kali is the machine that we use to hack into other computers. It's going to be connected to the NAT network, and we're going to use it to gain our initial access to the Windows machine. So let's go ahead and have a look on the Windows machine. So I'm going to click it here, and I'm going to click on its settings, and we're going to go to network. And if we zoom in, you'll see that this is connected to a NAT network. We need this because, as I said, we're going to use the Kali machine to hack into this machine to gain our initial access. But if we go back to the layout, you'll notice that the Windows machine is going to be the machine that we're going to use as a pivot to hack into the other network. So it's going to be the link between the two networks, the network that Kali is connected to and an unreachable network to Kali that we actually want to hack through Kali. Therefore, because this is supposed to be a pivot, and as we can see in this layout, it needs to be connected to two networks. So right now, it's already connected to the NAT network in here, as we can see, which is the same network that Kali is connected to, and we need this to gain our initial access. But we're also gonna click on the add in here, and we're gonna add another network adapter for this computer so that it has two network adapters so that we can connect it to two networks. And we're going to set this network settings to bridged instead of NAT. So now Windows has two network adapters. Adapter 1 is connected to a NAT network, which is the same network that Kali is connected to so that we can gain initial access to it. And then it's also connected to another network that Kali cannot see. It's an unreachable network to Kali. And that's the goal of this scenario. It's the goal of this module to try to reach this unreachable network. And this second network, we set it to use a bridged connection. So we're happy with this. We're going to click on OK. And we're going to go to the Metasploitable computer. And we're actually going to set this computer to also be connected to the same bridged network that the Windows machine is connected to. So this way, this Metasploitable machine is unreachable to Kali because it's connected to a completely different network than Kali. Therefore, Kali cannot directly communicate with it and cannot hack it even if it's vulnerable. Therefore, we're going to have to hack into the Windows machine, use the Windows machine as a pivot because it is the link between the two computers, between the two networks, to hack into this unreachable network or into this unreachable computer. So I'm going to zoom out and I'm going to click on OK, and we are done now. So let's go back to the network layout with labels now. And as you can see now, we have both Kali and Windows are connected to the NAT network, and therefore they can communicate with each other. Like I said, we're going to gain our initial access through this Windows network. And then we're going to set up pivoting rules so we can use the Windows machine to access the unreachable Metasploitable machine. On the other hand, we have the Metasploitable machine. Its network settings set to bridged, so it's unreachable to Kali, but it's reachable to the Windows machine because we configured the Windows machine to have two adapters, one of them connected to the same network as Kali and the other connected to the same network as Metasploitable, and therefore if somebody wants to hack into Metasploitable, they'll have to hack into Kali and use it as a pivot to access this unreachable network. And that's what we're gonna do in the next lecture. Now that we understand the concept of pivoting, it's really not that difficult to perform. All we need to do is we can upload any tool we need to use. For example, if you wanted to use Nmap or ARP spoof or dsniff, you can upload any of these tools, run them on this computer, which is connected to this big network, and then you can run a port scanner on this. You can do ARP poisoning and do man-in-the-middle attacks like we learned before. So it's very simple. All you have to do is use the upload command, upload it here, and use it from the command line like we were using it anyway in the previous videos. What I'm going to show you today is how to set up a route between the hacked computer and your computer so that you can use any Metasploit auxiliary or module against this big network. So we'll be able to use Metasploit exploits, we'll be able to use port scanners that come in with Metasploit, and other useful modules. To do that, we're going to use a module called AutoRoute. Let me show you first how, if I try to run an exploit on the target computer, on the Metasploitable computer, it's not going to work because it's not visible to me. So I'm going to do a sessions list, and you'll see that I already have a connection with the Windows computer here, so I've already hacked it. And I'm going to use exploit, multi, Samba, and user map script. Now, we already used this exploit against the Metasploitable before, but it was on the same network, so it was visible to us. What we're doing now is trying to attack a device that is not visible to us. And then I'm going to do show options. I'm going to set my R host to 10.20.15.4 because that's the IP of the Metasploitable device. Then I'm going to do show payloads. And I'm going to use this payload right here. So I'm going to do set payload to this, show options. Everything's set up properly, so I'm going to do exploit. And you'll see that this exploit will time out because if we go back to the diagram here, this device cannot see this device. So it's trying to run an exploit on this device, even though this device has that vulnerability, but I won't be able to use it because I can't see that device. And as you can see now, the exploit failed, connection timeout, we just couldn't connect to the target computer. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to interact with my interpreter on ID1. So sessions I1. So I'm in my interpreter. I'm going to run ifconfig first to see what my network look like, or the networks that the target computer is connected to. So we can see all the interfaces connected to the target computer, and I'm going to look for interfaces with IP addresses. So we have this interface number 4 has an IP address, and we can see that this IP address is on our network. So it's really not very useful. It's already on our network. We're on the 10.20.14 anyway, on that subnet. So this one is not very useful for me. Another one that I can see is this one, which is connected to 10.20.15.5. So it's on a different subnet right here, which I cannot see from my Kali Linux device. So I'm going to try to set up a route between this subnet and my current subnet. So I'm going to copy this, and then I'm going to background my current session. So I'm back into Metasploit, and I'll clear this. Then I'm going to use post manage. Now, by the way, at any stage of this, if you wanted to see all the manage modules, for example, you can just leave it at this and double tap, and you'll see all the manage modules, and you can try and use them and experiment with them. So the one that we want to use is AutoRoute. And I'm going to do show options to see the options that I can set. And we have two options that we need to set. We need to set the session that we hacked and the subnet. So I'm going to set the session first. And it's session number 1. And then I'm going to set the subnet to what we seen when we did the ifconfig command. It was 10, 20, 15, and I'm going to put a 0 to it. So again, we're using the set, very simple commands we already learned. We set in this session to number 1. That's the session that we hacked for the Windows. And the subnet is the subnet which the Windows is connected to and we don't have access to. So it's the 10, 20, 15, 0. And I'm going to do exploit. And this will create the connection or the route between my device and the Windows device. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to go back to the same exploit that I tried at the start of the video, and you'll see that the exploit is going to work because the Windows device is visible to me now. So instead of using that exploit, you can use, as I said, port scanners or discovery modules that come in with Metasploit or any other module that come in with Metasploit, because my device can now see the target computer. It can see this Metasploitable device because it was not visible for me at the start, but now I have a connection to this computer and I set up a route between this network and my computer so I can actually see the Metasploitable device now. So I'm going to use the same exploit I used before. And it was exploit multi Samba user map script. Just clear that. Now I'm going to show the options and I'm going to leave them the same because everything is actually set up correctly. So I'm just going to do exploit. And as you can see, now command shell was started properly. And I actually have access to the Metasploitable device now. So I can do ID and I'm root. I can do a uname A to just confirm that for you. And we can see that we're in the Metasploitable device and I can run any Linux command that I want. So I can do ls pwd and I should be in the root. And I can do cd, go to var, for example, and do any Linux command that I want. So I basically have full access to the target computer. Now again, as I said, you could upload stuff and run them from the target computer, but it's not always a good idea to upload things to a hacked computer. So setting up the routes like this and using pivoting is a much safer choice. And I highly recommend that you go and have a look on other Metasploitable modules because Metasploit is really big. It's hard for me to cover everything. I just covered the main basic stuff, but you can always just go in and have a look on other modules and try them. Using the modules is usually the same. We had a look on a broad array of modules, so it should be easy to just configure options and run these modules the way you want.